The other thing that I see a lot is the mixed bag strategy. So somebody would take three different strategies that they like, and then they're all kind of either waiting for them all to match up, or they're one strategy is telling them to get out of the trade, but the other one would have said to hold it, and now it's kind of mixed signals, and that causes some kind of doubt in people's trades. That causes a collapse of confidence in a trader.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the RLT Pivot Podcast. My name is Tracy, and I am joined with my incredible co-host, Mr. Dan Janson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing unbelievable. I can't believe you keep inviting me back. I cannot believe it, but I'm here, excited, ready to go. We got the squad live with some questions during the live podcast. You guys, if you're listening on a recording, if you have not checked out Real Life Trading, we do have All Access Pass. We do record this live in All Access Pass, and that gives you access to not only the Pivot Podcast, but all the trading. But during this episode, you guys can ask questions, things like that too. So fun topic today. It's all about strategies, and I think people get a little confused with the word strategies. I think they just assume strategies mean guaranteed wins. I don't think it does, but having some type of plan in the market and understanding how other people trade, why they trade it, is a very important part of trading in general. Or we were talking about this before, really anything. If you have a good strategy, a good plan, if you're a business owner, you need some kind of strategy. How do you penetrate the market? How do you get new clients? How do you advertise? How do you get the products at better price? What is your strategy to go about it? Trading is no different than that. So Tracy, what does a strategy in the market mean to you?
Okay, so that's a great question, because I think that, first of all, I have a definition that's different between plan, like a trading plan, versus a trading strategy. So for me, a trading strategy is a specific set of rules for entry and exit. So, what are you looking for that's going to actually trigger a buy sell, or what's going to trigger a sell? That to me is a strategy. A plan, a trading plan, is how do you manage your R's? How do you manage your monthly gains or weekly gains or losses? How do you actually run your business? So there's a business plan, and then there's an actual executable strategy that's how I define the two. So in today's episode, basically, we're going to be talking about developing your own strategy. So we've talked a lot about building a trading plan, but not much on actually developing an individual strategy that you could then use to trade with. So how do you define it? Would you change any of that, or is that similar to what I would do?
No, I think you are 100% on point as far as that. And I think to really sit down and start with, I mean, you could go online. There's tons of strategies, even in real life trading, with all the different members. A lot of members have their own strategies, twists to strategies, things like that. Just because Tracy Ball has a strategy doesn't mean DJ Dan could do that strategy, right? It depends on a whole lot of things. One, personality, right? I would say if you're the type that could sit in front of first of all, if you have the time to sit in front of the computer, maybe you have another job you have to get to, you have kids, you have other obligations. And I'm trying to trade a strategy where somebody really has to be in front of the computer all day, either to wait for that setup to come in or be able to move stops and things like that. That strategy might not work for me, right? So I have to know what my schedule is, what my personality is. If somebody is more capable of just sitting on their hands as they get into a trade, and I'm only moving my stop because of this, and I want the bigger wins, I want the bigger runs, that's great. But if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the stock market and I'm the type where it's like, all right, there's the green candle, sentiment changed real quick right there, I got to move stop because of this, you could be a great trader. You don't have to, like, it doesn't mean you're a bad trader if you do that, but I can't follow a longer term strategy. I can't follow somebody that has the ability to sit patiently and wait. So knowing who you are as a trader, and we have a good course in I think you might have took it too, but we have the psychology of trading that was hosted by Jeremy. If you guys have not checked that out yet, check that out. It's on the dashboard, and it's not a sales pitch. It was just a really, really good course, but it gives you a good element into who you are and then how that relates to the stock market, right? And that helps to develop the type of trader you are, and that could kind of at least steer you down the right road in terms of what strategy might be a better fit for you.
So what are some of the pitfalls? Because I love this topic right now that we're talking about, because I see it a lot. But what are some of the pitfalls if you pick a strategy that doesn't coincide with your personality or doesn't work well? What are some of the things that you've seen with your clients that might be a result of that?
I think that person trading the wrong strategy is more likely to not be a trader in a year.
Okay. What are some of the symptoms, though, of that?
Symptoms is they go, this strategy is bad. It doesn't work.
Okay.
It works, just maybe not for you, right?
Okay.
And there's a, like I said at the very beginning, strategy is not a home run. You're still going to have losses on your strategy. You're still going to have wins on the strategy, but it's taking that strategy over and over again and know why you're taking that, right? If you go back and you back trade that strategy and you're applying it, I mean, you could have good strategy, but use it on the wrong stocks, right?
Yeah.
There's stocks that move differently. There's different volumes that come in. And if there's a trader just blindly following a strategy because the candle is a certain color and it's bouncing off the 100 EMA, yeah, maybe that last 5 trades you didn't take or you took didn't work, but that doesn't mean the strategy is bad. Maybe there's another element that a trader might be looking at, or maybe tested out over 1,000 trades. You have a 60% win ratio, which is phenomenal, right? And it's a longer term basis. But I know there's a lot of people who will try a certain strategy, they get frustrated with it because they don't really understand. They haven't done enough homework with that strategy. They haven't spent enough time with that strategy. It's like they found somebody on a dating app. They swiped right, and then they talked to them they said hi, and they didn't say hi back quick enough, and that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to spend a little more time. You have to dig into what the strategy is, and then how that affects the overall plan that you're sitting on.
Okay. Well, for me, I'm going to add a few little details because I've seen some specific symptoms that I've noticed when the strategy doesn't match the individual. And an example would be using a scalping strategy, but you are the kind of person that is more patient, takes a little longer to make decisions. You're better suited for somebody that's going to hold for a longer period throughout the day. Those quick decision makings, if you're second guessing yourself all the time, that can be one of the symptoms of a failed scalping strategy. Because scalping, you have to be able to make quick decisions. You have to get in, get out really quickly, and you're not meant to hold it. So that's one of those scenarios. Another one would be if you're second guessing the signal all the time. It could be a strategy that's either too late or it might be the wrong type of strategy, because when you talk about strategies, you've got indicator-based strategies, you've got volume-based strategies, you've got other types of indicator strategies, oscillating strategies. There's a bunch of different ones that rely on different kind of technical or fundamental or price action. And if they don't match with your type of personality and the way that you see the market, that can create issues like not taking the trigger signal when it actually triggers, not executing the trade, or changing your plan constantly because you're second guessing that strategy all the time. So I hope that makes sense. But those are some of the things that I've noticed. And if you're struggling with that, maybe it's not that you're struggling as a trader per se. Maybe it's just the strategy that you have isn't necessarily the right one for you yet. And that's the other thing. And you also mentioned the part with understanding the strategy. And that I think is key, because if you can't identify the strategy, if you don't know what the strategy is, or you can't regularly pick it up, the strategy is not going to work for you. And so if you have difficulty seeing hammers until after they're created, a hammer strategy is probably not, and what I mean by that, after they're created, after a move has been made and you don't notice the hammer was created to begin with, then, that's not a strategy. And it's kind of a stupid example, but it gets the point across. So, something like that. And if there's certain signals that you don't understand how to read, or you don't see them till after the fact, then again, that strategy is not a good one for you. So that's one of the things that I was talking about. And the other thing is, if you want to be done by by noon, or if you want to be done by after the first hour of trading, then there's certain strategies that are going to work really well for that particular time of day. And picking a strategy that's better suited for lunchtime or after the first hour of trading that takes a little bit more patience and doesn't need to be executed as quickly, you have to match that up accordingly. So that's kind of where.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the time of day in the market is very crucial to any strategy. So
very.
If you guys see a strategy, you're learning a strategy, whatever the case is, make sure that it applies to the time that you're able to trade. The other thing that I see a lot is the mixed bag strategy. So somebody will take 3 different strategies that they like, and then they're all kind of either waiting for them all to match up, or they're one strategy is telling them to get out of the trade, but the other one would have said to hold it, and now it's kind of mixed signals. And that causes some kind of doubt in people's trades. That causes a collapse of confidence in a trader. And then you start to weigh off the strategy a little bit, and you start making your own decisions. And you're like, oh, okay, I got half an R when I could have gotten a 1.2, I could have got a 1.5, a 2R trade. And then again, you look at the one that you would have held, and that was a loss, and you're like, this strategy doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
No, you just didn't really follow the strategies fully. You're kind of mixing different strategies around, and I see that a lot too, and that kind of throws people off.
It's happened to me, right? I've struggled with that particular issue on occasion, and I am more of a price action. I'm a volume trader, so I tend to need to get into moves a lot sooner than a lot of the indicators are going to signal. And if I wait for an indicator to signal, or most of the time when my volume information is telling me, hey, you need to pull the trigger here on a trade, usually the moving averages, the any types of other technical indicators might be showing me the opposite. And then you start to doubt yourself, and you go, oh, do I take it? Do I take it? Do I take it? And you doubt yourself, and those other signals start playing. So that is something else that you should be aware of if you're using or you have a mixed bag of tools, because I think it's important that you do have multiple types of strategies, but you need to understand when you're using one particular strategy, why you're using it, what type of market is it working in right now, and the fact that you have a different type of strategy that might be in a different class. Maybe it's an indicator-based strategy versus a price action-based strategy. Then you need to kind of separate yourself, put kind of blinders in that particular case. Otherwise, it is going to create some dissension within your own ability to make those decisions. So be cautious of that, be aware of that. So that's something else. So that was a great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I think too, we just get back to when to apply the strategies to a certain time frame. I think the other thing, what I've blatantly said before, I think every single strategy is absolute garbage if you're not applying it to the right place, right? So yeah. I think location is the number one thing where you can kind of get a little creative with some of the strategies of what you use and why you use it. But if you're applying a great strategy in the wrong place all the time, you could put a brand new chandelier in a haunted house. It doesn't make it less haunted, right? You still have the same ghosts. So you at a certain point, I think understanding where to apply a certain strategy and not just understanding this thing crosses this line, so I'm going to have to take it, or the volume is coming in here. But if it's coming in a certain zone that you might have already predetermined as a good location, your odds of the strategy working increases a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you have good location on your side. Plus that you kind of mentioned if something's already run and then you see a hammer after that, well, it's already run. So, I mean, chances are, I mean, how much more is it going to go? It could hit targets. You could be a successful trader doing it, but I think you have the odds stacked against you. So I think location is absolutely huge for applying any strategy.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I absolutely agree. Now, you mentioned earlier about getting a strategy from somewhere else. So there's 2 ways of actually developing a strategy. You can get it from some other location, or you can create your own from scratch. So where are your favorite places to look for strategies that have already been created that you're going to then back test, forward test, all of that kind of stuff? Where do you go?
Good question, because I think I get them from all over. And also at this point, like I'm always I'm always open to new ideas and new understanding just to see how the market works and what else is out there. But I've pretty much been running the same strategies for a while, which is okay because they're working. Like
Mm-hmm. If it ain't broke,
make
don't
they
fix.
make money. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a new tool, a new shiny object, but at the same time, I'm gonna go recreate the wheel. So
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of same stuff for a while for what I do, but I just consistently do it over and over again. Um, but I still I think YouTube is a great place to learn anything. So
Okay.
again, I think there's a ton of people out there that have videos on things and certain strategies on things, and there's some cool ideas. Sometimes I'll incorporate them. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe this is a good place to find locations, or I like what he did with this. And just the more you know, the more successful you could start to apply different things and really understand sentiment in the market.
Mhm.
So but YouTube, real life trading obviously has a ton of just absolute free education, free setups. That's where I got a lot of different setups and really trying to understand how to piece everything together. So um I think there's a wealth of knowledge out there. And back in the day, I would actually be in the library getting trading books, which probably since that time nobody's ever touched a trading book in their life. But I used to go through there, read patterns, understand setups, try to understand. With videos, it's like you get to see it in real time, back trade. You get back traded on Trading View, and just a little bit more interactive, and you're able to kind of really understand it and utilize it, as opposed to
Yeah.
just understanding it and then the market opens and you're like, this is the exact strategy, and you're questioning it. So um I think there's a wealth of knowledge out there.
Perfect. Yeah.
What about for you?
YouTube's a great source. I create most of mine on my own. But I get inspiration from all sorts of different places. And TradingView has, I mean, you can go in and look for specific strategies as well. There's also places that you can go, like my SQL or QLMQL, whatever community. You can pay for strategies as well. Now, I would encourage you, before you go and pay for a strategy and do all that kind of stuff, I would play around with the free strategies that are available and make sure that you understand how to test them, optimize them, and understand them before you even go and waste money on paying for a strategy. There's so many free ones available out there. So that's kind of the place that I would start you at is like I said, TradingView or inside of another community, right?
See, you brought up a good point. I mean, I know I can't be as smart as you and just blatantly create my own strategy, but I take what I like and then I kind of apply the trades to it a little bit. So what do you think is better for a newer trader? Is it trying to just start to mimic strategies that they see? Would it be going just trying to just play around and see if what works best for them, just kind of blank slate?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think that in order for you to me, it's like buying a house. Your very first house, you don't go and build your very first house and make it a dream home, right? If you go and you buy a house, you live in it, you do whatever blah, blah, blah. But if you went out and you went and built a house, you decided that was the very first house you were going to make and you built it, I can probably assure you that it's not going to be the best version of house that you could create. And what I mean by that is when you go and you buy a house and you go and live in a house, whether it be a rental or whether it be a purchase that you make, you learn what you like and what you don't like about those particular houses. And as you experience another house or another place that you've lived, there's another thing that you add to the list that builds that skill set of what you like in a perfect home. And same with strategies. When you are trading with somebody else's strategy, and this is how I started developing my own, was there were certain things that I liked and certain things that I didn't. I started out by taking a strategy and going, okay, how can I make this better? What's working for me? What isn't working for me? And again, matching with the personality, right? We understand who we are. We understand the kind of trader that we are. So how can we take this strategy and make it work for our personality? And if it doesn't, you scrap it. And if it does, then you've just created a new strategy with inspiration from another strategy. So really, the more strategies that you expose yourself to, you're going to learn what you like, what you don't like. And that's kind of the practice stage of figuring out what strategies might work and exposing yourself. I mean, I have heard story after story after story of traders who have blown up their accounts. They've been trading for years. They've been doing this, they've been doing that, and it just never worked. And then all of a sudden they found this. And it just worked for them. And now it's a clicking strategy and they're successful. And it was just the one thing that they needed to do. I've heard a lot of that with credit spreads, for instance, being something that, a lot of traders struggled with. And then all of a sudden they found a credit spread strategy and now it's just been the game changer for them. So really, experimenting, but I would not just dive out and try and create your own. There's no point in that. And at this point, because you need to learn, what are you really looking for and what should you be paying attention to when you're even evaluating a strategy? You don't get that way until you have more experience.
And Richard Jett has a good question. He's asking, because we were just talking about YouTube and finding different sources. So his question is, how do you know to trust the source on something like YouTube? My answer, and I'll ask you yours, but my answer is you don't trust anybody. Like, don't trust yourself, right? I think the only way to really trust what's out there, because there's a lot of good information and a lot of just absolute horrible garbage information. I saw on Twitter somebody posted a chart of this market is, I think it was probably on the SPY, and they're like, this market is just hit the top, and he's drawing like fibs to show us like where it comes in. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this guy drew the fibs upside down. Like, it wasn't even, and he had like a whole bunch of likes and retweets and things like that. I'm like, the fib is not even correct. Like, that's basic stuff. Be careful of who's out there, right? Take what they say with a grain of salt, but apply it, make it your own, right? Go back trade what you learn. You could do it for free on TradingView, run the candles, see how it works for you. Maybe it's maybe it's a great strategy. Maybe it's horrible. You're like, no, it just doesn't fit me whatsoever. There's been an absolute ton of strategies that I've seen that I've back traded. I'm like, I can't figure out how to even start with this one. Like, I just don't know. So that you don't see me trading those strategies because I can't figure them out. If I'm going to lose money on something and be blatantly unclear of what I'm doing, I'm just not going to take the strategies. Right. So I would say don't trust anybody. I know there's big trading companies where the owners of the companies, and I'm not going to throw anybody in the bus, mention names, but SEC said they can't even trade anymore. Like, they literally can't place trades themselves because of insider trading and stuff like this. But they have a ton of followers, ton of people that are getting information from them. And I'm like, it's wild. It's the Wild West. So be very, very careful. I wish I had a better answer to say, just click on XYZ and that will tell you that they're trustworthy. You can't. So go back, take what they say, not who they are, and back trade that to see if that works for you and if that's something that you could entrust in your own trading, right? Have the confidence in you, not somebody else.
Yep. And I got to say that there's no shortcuts here. You got to do the work. And I am reminded of, back in my apprenticeship days when I have two sets of pliers, that have a constant reminder. They got big giant holes in them. And that's from cutting a power line, knowing or thinking that it was dead because I trusted somebody else that they said, yeah, I killed the power. And it was a lesson that I needed to learn twice before I finally got it. And you just, that's the fact. You cannot do anything or implement anything without actually practicing it yourself and making sure that it works. So that's your due diligence. And that doesn't mean that you can't get a strategy from wherever. One of the reasons that I learned the way that I learned and how I started evaluating and making changes to strategies was I came across multiple YouTube strategy examples, and they would be crossover, like moving average crossover, and they would show the chart's not live. The chart is after the fact. And they would say, here's a crossover here, you buy here, and look at the profit you would have made. The reality, when you go, and I found this out by taking the strategy going, ooh, this looks really cool, let's back trade it. I go and I back trade it. And I'm going, well, what the heck? By the time the cross comes, that big move's already done. And I'm not in it because I don't have this ability to see into the future and know that that crossover is going to take place until after the candle is designed. But yet these people are throwing out a video that says, hey, buy here, sell here. So, it looks great until you actually practice it yourself and you find out, well, they don't know what they're talking about. So it's just the way it is. I've seen volume profile people showing demonstrations of the volume profile, and they're going, here's the point of control. Here's where you get in. Look at this node here. Look at this node here. And I'm going, that node didn't exist when that candle was there. That node didn't exist when that candle was there, because you're using the current profile after the fact. And it makes absolutely no sense to me. So you have to do your work, because there are people that don't understand it, just as Dan had pointed out, upside down fibs, poor understanding of the market. And yet they will swindle some people into believing what they have to say, giving them money, and that's really their goal. So weed it out by protecting yourself, by doing exactly what you're supposed to do, your due diligence. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Cindy says they're already in and want others to follow and push their trade. Yes, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And not everybody is, I would say, not everybody's malicious. I think we've done a podcast on this before, but I don't think everybody's out there malicious, and they're saying, hey, here's the system that I use. Okay, if that's the system you use, then great. But is that going to be the system that I use? And that I don't know. I don't know yet until I really dive in, back trade it. And again, maybe their system is great in certain areas of the day or certain timeframes of the day, certain locations of the chart.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's why I say too, location's everything. Like
mm-hmm.
you could have a horrible strategy, but you keep applying it at the right location. You're like, wow, this thing's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. You got a great one. You're applying in the wrong spot, and you're like, I don't understand this one. It doesn't make any sense. Right. And it's not always that you're doing something wrong. It's just that either you didn't quite grasp the full picture of what the strategy is, what it's for, how to use it, or it's just a bad strategy. There's a ton of those out there too.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes into play here is the law of numbers, right? So there's, every strategy has kind of a percentage of success, and the more trade examples you have, the closer you're going to get to a better example of what that percentage is going to be. And so understanding what that is over a bigger time frame is important. So there's going to be strategies out there that really don't need you to pay attention to location. So if you aren't there yet and you don't really understand thoroughly how to get really good support resistance, or you don't like to, whatever, some of those strategies may work really fine, but they're based on law of numbers. You have to take all of the trades in order to average out and get the gains. And a lot of traders just can't, especially after a few losses in a row. Then they don't take the next trade, and that happens to be the winner. And, that's the one that makes it all better, and it puts them from red to green, and they just skipped it. So there's some consistency that's needed, and you need to understand that. But we are out of time, Dan. So I appreciate the fact that you've joined me once again.
Let's do it again. Let's run it up. For everybody that is live with us, we appreciate you joining us each and every Thursday between 4 and 5 o'clock. That's the new times that we are recording. For you guys that are watching us on wherever podcasts are streamed, we appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. We will have consistently new episodes coming out each and every Friday for you guys. And by the way, if you guys have missed an episode, if this is your first time watching the Pivot Podcast, if you've seen a couple but not all, we've got the whole list. You can go through the library, start from one. It's especially you teachers out there, you have the whole summer off. What are you guys doing? But yeah, click the links, and that will take you to the next one. Otherwise, you guys are incredible. Catch you guys later.